Hey guys, welcome to another video. Thanks for joining me in this one. In this particular video, I'll be talking about the reasons why credit cards are bad for you. Now, I know that this is not what you want to hear, but the truth is that companies and these owners of these credit cards are out there to make money, and I want you to be informed before you go ahead. Of course, using a credit card isn't a bad deal, but having too many of it and not understanding the pros and cons of these credit cards is what will get you in trouble. And to save you out of trouble, that is why I'm making this video. And if at any point along in this video, if you find value in it, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Now, we know that a lot of people fall into financial troubles, and that sometimes get them into a lot of credit card debt. Now, that is definitely one of the reasons why people pile up debt. But generally, a lot of people get into this debt because of just poor finance management. That means they either spend too much or they don't make enough, and they don't budget based on the money that they make. So that gets them in trouble because now they pile up this debt on these credit cards because it's so easy to swipe it. And because you have a credit availability of about $5,000, doesn't necessarily mean you can afford to be in a $5,000 debt. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. So right now, as of February 21st, based on an article that I found online, the average credit card debt sits at around $6,270. And in my opinion, I believe that that's a lot of money to hold on a credit card, because if that money isn't paid off by the end of the cycle, the interest rate that will be put on that will be enormous, and that would spiral out of control within a very short period of time. The first thing I'll be talking about is the high interest rate. Right now, even during these times of low interest rate environment that we're experiencing, credit cards still carry very high interest. The average sits at around 17%. And in my opinion, that is just crazy. The number two reason why I believe credit cards are bad for you is that they carry high late fees. Generally, most of us don't keep in mind what our cycle is. When I say a cycle, just like a billing cycle, what we are familiar with is, first of the month through the end of the month. And by the end of the month, you should make a payment to whatever, business that you hold. But for credit cards, that is not the case. Most of the time, it can be at the middle of the month. That's when the billing cycle ends. And if you haven't made your payment, anything after that will be assessed with a late payment. Now, to blow your mind, the average late fee sits at around $36, which means that in addition to this high interest rates that I've already talked about, they would also assess a late fee of around, as an average, $36 on top of it. The next thing is high annual fees. Now, I have to be honest with you, a lot of credit cards do come without annual fees, but majority of the good credit cards do have high annual fees. And when I say high, it can be as high as up to $550 per year, and it can be as low as about $85 per year. Now, the question is this, right? How many times do you actually use the perks that these credit cards do provide? Unless you are in the travel industry, like I know a lot of airline pilots that will have certain credit cards because you can use them for food or for hotel benefits and things of this nature. Of course, if you stay in the hotels a lot and maybe you can use them at the airports for, the lounges and things of that nature, then you may be able to use this credit card and make that money back in terms of the value that you get. But in reality, an average person that doesn't really travel, probably travels once in a year on specific vacations, doesn't really need to carry credit cards that would be paying about $500 in annual fees, because at the end of the day, that excludes the interest rate that they will charge you, that includes the late fee that you may be charged, and of course, that also depends on how much you get to pay back on these credit cards, because if you go on one vacation per year, you probably want to spend, which means that there's a chance that you will overspend, which means the amount you pay back in return for that benefit might not be even worth it. You might just be better off just having your cash to spend while you're on vacation. Most of them will tell you to spend in a grocery store or in travel, and then you would get maybe 3% back. When in reality, what they're trying to do is to incentivize you to spend in areas in which you will probably spend a lot of money, and your chances of paying off that credit card within that period of time puts you in a crunch, which means you'll be able to pay it off within that cycle, and you're likely to exceed it, and they will have to assess you with a late fee or the interest. Now, at the end of the day, does that mean that you shouldn't use a credit card, or does that mean that credit cards are bad for everybody? Of course, no, that isn't the case here, and that is not the point of this video. The reason why it is bad for some people is what I've really highlighted here. If you're in a situation in which you manage your money properly and you pay off your credit card on time, you have to remember that at the end of the day, the rewards you get in return may not be worth holding that credit card. And that is something you have to really consider, because a lot of us will try to get all these credit cards for their rewards in which we won't even use them. Most of the time, the rewards that I get are like $20, $30, $40. And after spending so much money on that credit card, that's when you get that type of reward back. And yeah, you might be able to use it for little things, but in the long run, that's not going to give you financial breakthrough. And that is why, in general, credit cards are not really good financial instruments, but they are a good tool to build credit. Are credit cards really bad? Not necessarily. It depends on the person using the tool. If you're the type that have a budget and you know that you won't spend more than you make, then credit cards might be good for you because you get all these little benefits. But I have to remind you, like I said, these are not necessarily great benefits if you look at it from, the big picture. But if you're the type that haven't really figured out your finances yet, then credit cards might really put you deeper in the hole. And that's why credit cards are bad for you. Well, I hope you found value in this video, and I hope that you give this video a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about credit cards in general, and consider subscribing to this channel because I would love to see you next time.